Welcome back. One other area which the judiciary also expected change is in the area of infrastructure. In November 2017, as part of its oversight functions, the House of Representatives Committee on National Judiciary visited the Lagos Division of the Federal High Court to inspect facilities at the court. They also inspected the judges' residential quarters and the courtroom complex, which is still under construction. At the end of their visit, the chairman of the committee described the conditions under which judges and judicial workers in the nation's judicial system operate as deplorable and unacceptable.
What we have seen here is really very unbecoming, and it's unacceptable for a judge to be working, a federal high court judge to be working in a cubicle. You know, how is he expected to? No wardrobes for them to change, even when they come in late, and no place for them to keep their books, files underneath tables and stuff. It's really not acceptable. But the project is going on, and this will help us to have more impetus in making appropriations for this project so that it can be quickly completed, and judges and indeed the lawyers and litigants can be more comfortable. Judiciary budget has been going down over the years, while the federal budget is going up every year. But luckily for us, this dispensation has appropriated 100 billion for 2017 budget. And this 2018 budget, they are also proposing 100 billion, subject to the approval of the National Assembly.
Now, lawyers have been expressing concern about the proposed funding for the judiciary in the 2018 budget. Most of them believe that the amount is inadequate. I have the views of two senior legal practitioners on the issue.
There are several courts. When you talk about the judiciary, there is the Federal Court, there is well, let's start from the top, the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal, the all courts under them, the various state high courts, who all feast on this collective pool. So I'm aware, for example, that the Federal High Court has been trying to put up a building, a more edifying building in Lagos, for example, their most active judicial division, and they've been unable to do so in the last couple of years. And it's largely due to the fact that the funds are inadequate. And if you look at it also from the operating environment, if you go to the courts, there are files all over the place, and really it's a mockery of what we call judiciary. And that is why even indeed the litigant who goes to that environment will not so much respect the court, because if you look at it, the environment is shabby, and the courtrooms are filthy. Sometimes they operate without generators when there's to. So really, it leaves much to be desired, and I think from that perspective, the funding is grossly inadequate. The proposal is grossly, I don't know the budget process, if because I understand even that the 100 billion is still a proposal at this time. It could be reduced. I don't know if it could be increased, but I would be happy that more funds are allocated to the judiciary for the vital role they play in the stabilizing the polity.
Going by the number of judges vis-a-vis the population of this country, all right? And the fact that we are running a democracy, if we vote 10% of our budgetary allocation to the judiciary, it will not be too much. This year's budget is about 8 trillion. 10% of it is about 800 billion. If we put 800 billion in the judiciary, it is not too much. So if you want people to have dividends of democracy, give them the environment, the enabling environment, that will enable them to ventilate their grievances in the law courts and get results.
It remains to be seen if anything will change in the new year. But on Law Weekly, we'll monitor developments, particularly in the area of infrastructure, and keep you updated on any changes if and when they occur. But for year 2018, these are some of the recommendations that lawyers have for improvement in the judiciary.
we have to think, outside the box. Look at the Constitution and remove the constraints. So, my first suggestion here is that we need to appoint more judges. We need to also provide necessary incentives for these judges to work. Give them good environment. Some of our judges work under very serious and tedious situations. And secondly, please permit me to add this. I've said this before. We are running a federal system of government. Let us, for one, decide to run federal the way federalism works. It will not be an overstatement to say that we are running a unitary judiciary. At the base of the triangular structure, we have state high courts, but that is the end of it. Appeal lies from both the states and federal courts to the Court of Appeal. Why can't we have Court of Appeals in the states? Why can't we have Supreme Court in the states? Why should simple fight or disagreement between husband and wife, which we call divorce, end up at the Federal Supreme Court in Abuja? Why should a land matter in one remote area of Enugu or Ekiti State end up at the Federal Supreme Court in Abuja? Whereas land is vested in the governor of a state, not in the president. So my suggestion here is that the federal courts, including in particular the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court, can be limited to matters under the exclusive legislative list in the Constitution. And all matters in the concurrent and the residual go to the state to handle. You will see how fast these things will go.
Abacha did something. He created in his constitution a constitutional court. I still recommend that we have a constitutional court where all these political cases go, and we do not besiege our Supreme Court, we do not overwhelm our Supreme Court, we do not hamper our Supreme Court with handling of political cases throughout the year. It's never done and should not be done, and we should halt it, we should stop it.
I think our courts, our judges have to adopt case management and embark on alternative dispute resolution in resolving many cases that are pending in the courts. We will need to appoint more judges to man many of our courts. We need to improve on the working conditions of our judges. I mean, because for me, it's unacceptable, it's intolerable for our judges to continue to write longhand, to take evidence, We also need to equip our courts. Many of the courts have there's no electricity supply. I mean, the state courts are worse. The federal government has taken the issue of financial autonomy for the judiciary much more seriously than the states. And I can tell you, little or no attention is paid to customary courts and magistrate courts and area courts, where you find the majority of our population seeking justice.
That's the program this week. Thank you for tuning in, and here's wishing all our viewers a fruitful 2018, one in which the rule of law will always prevail. I am Shola Shoyeli.